edition of Conversations with CASA, a monthly news blog examining issues in the child welfare community. My name is Vicki Spriggs. I'm the CEO of Texas CASA and your host. And we're filming at the Texas CASA office in Austin, Texas. Our guest today is Delia Martinez, who is the founder of the nonprofit Grandparents Raising Grandchildren Coalition. Delia, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us about the coalition?
Well, we started working on this about two and a half years ago that we started working on this. And that being in a nonprofit for a few years and then seeing everything that's going on with the grandparents and lack of resources that they have and all these things that are going on and things that I've gone through with my children, decided we needed to do a little bit more. So I decided to go, we did a health fair first and invited grandparents, and we had 100 grandparents that came to the event, and then we got back to them, divided the names and called them and asked them what their priorities were and what their concerns were. And then we figured out all the things, the issues that they have and concerns, and it's a whole big list of issues that grandparents have from, and of course the number one being financial. The financial was number one, then the legal was second, and then health. And then from there on, there's beds that they need when they get their kids. There's being able to put food on the table, clothes for the children, transportation, immigration issues. So there's a slew of things that are needed. So learning that all these things that are happening and you're sitting waiting for legislators to bring you some of these things and do those things for you, and it's not happening, I decided I'm going to go, I need to do something. So I decided to go see the judge. And one morning I just got up and I told my husband, I said, go drop me off at the courthouse. And he said, oh, why are you going? I said, I'm going to go see the judge. He asked me, do you have an appointment? I said, no, I don't have an appointment, but I need to go talk to him about issues with grandparents. So he dropped me off. I went over there. I was standing at the door waiting for him to get to work. When he got to work, I introduced myself. I told him I was with the grandparents. I told him issues that grandparents are going through, and especially when they go to court, they're not prepared. They don't have lawyers. They can't afford lawyers, and they're scared, and they don't know what to do. So, and I told him, and I know you also know that it is a problem. And he agreed. He said, yes, I'm getting too many. And I said, and you have a backlog of all these grandparents here and kinship. And he agreed. He said, so what is it you want? I said, I want to sit down and have a meeting with you. So once he agreed, he said, okay, we'll meet. And then I told him, okay, then I want the other two judges from Children's Court, Judge Garcia, Judge Montemayor. I want lawyers here. I want CPS here. So I told him everybody I wanted, and he agreed. And I left, and then I thought, oh my God, now I got to go home and do a preparation for this. We got to do something to let them know all the issues we're having. So we had to go and plan what to do. I called my sister and put together what we were going to do, a presentation to have, and we had it printed out and everything. I invited another of the grandparents, Mercedes, which is my partner. We worked together on this. And my sister and Dr. Yolanda Santos, which is ran the support group where I was in. Okay. And we all went over there and we did the presentation, and we told them everything that was needed and some of the examples of what's happening and everything. At the end of it, he said, well, what is it you want from us? And I told him, I want a legal task force that's going to help the grandparents pro bono or at a reduced rate. So he got up and looked around and looked at the lawyers, and then he said, okay, let's get started doing this.
Can I stop you for a second? This is fantastic. Let me just cut in for a second to fill in the blanks for our viewers. So the judge you're talking about is Peter Sakai in San Antonio, who's been a CASA supporter for decades.
He's awesome.
And a true advocate for children and families. And I've also gathered from the story that you are no shrinking violet. So you sound like you must have a history in activism.
Well, I've worked in two nonprofits. I worked for the Good Samaritan, and I worked for Avance.
Okay.
And I've worked with kids that have been sent to me to work with them, been sent by the courts. So you hear the stories of what's going on with these children, with these families, and you see what they do to help them and everything, and the things they need. And it's not always the children's fault why they're out in the streets and why they end up in jail and all this stuff. It's not their fault. So you have to learn to advocate for them and to help them. So this is where I've learned, and I had a little bit of experience working with children and working with seniors. So then when this came along, it was just like, you know, you're waiting and for somebody to do it, and nobody's going to do it. So you have to go out and do it yourself. And yes, I wasn't the one that wanted to be up in front talking. I'll help you, but I would be in the background. And then all of a sudden, here I am.
You're called.
Doing this. Yes.
Thank you. So you had the meeting with Judge Sakai and the other judges and the attorneys. He helped bring resources to the table, and you started out in San Antonio. I forgot to say that. So keep going. I interrupted.
Yes.
Sorry.
When he agreed to it, he assigned one of the lawyers that was there. She said she would be doing the intake, and she would start doing all the stuff. So we gathered grandparents every month, and we take 10 grandparents to meet with a lawyer and go over their cases, and some of them are very simple, just paperwork. So it just depends if they can be able to do it pro bono or at a reduced rate, or just help them and they don't have to pay anything or do anything. And some are as simple as being able to get paperwork to get their kids into school, or to be able to get to see the doctors and stuff like that. So, and others are a little bit more expensive because they want to adopt them. And when it comes to adoption, it's in the thousands of dollars. So it's very hard. So we're trying to work on something, and so is the judge. Peter Sakai is trying to do something where they can the court can put together a nonprofit where they can have money to be able to help these grandparents financially when they can't afford the lawyers.
Super. And in our discussion, you talked about a lot of legislative advocacy that your group does as well. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, after we saw the judge, I decided we need to go see the legislators. So we went to see Senator Jose Menendez, and we asked him if he would help us put together a bill that would help the grandparents financially. We did, and it didn't pass. But we kept working on it, and one did pass, and that was House Bill 4 with House Representative Burkett, but that's only for kinship. But it was still something, so we're still working on those bills to get financial help, get the grandparents to get paid, and get financial help the same as foster care gets paid, because I don't think that that's fair to them.
No, I definitely agree, and we all know of multiple cases where grandparents are stepping in to take care of their grandchildren because there is no one else there. That son or that daughter isn't able to do it. So we really appreciate grandparents because we know the value of family. Well, let me see. Your program started in Bexar County, which is San Antonio. Do you work with people, or can people from other counties contact you for assistance?
Well, actually, Mercedes and I are advocates for the state of Texas, and we have another advocate in Texas. There's 3 advocates in Texas, and we work right now. We've been working with San Antonio, but we're going outside San Antonio now, and we have a support group in Castroville. And we're going outside, been invited to other counties around to help them, but we get requests from all over the state that they need help. So eventually we're going to be going out and doing and help. Sometimes we just give them numbers that they can call or refer them to our lawyer, because we never turn anybody back.
Super, thank you. And I understand you have a website as well.
Yes, we do have a San Antonio Grandparents Raising Grandchildren.
San Antonio Grandparents Raising Grandchildren.com or .org or
.com, I think.
.com. Okay, super, super. So that our network knows how to access that. Are CASA volunteers working with you all in any kind of way, or is there some way you could see a CASA volunteer assisting?
Yes, they work with us. In fact, we have a meeting when I go back this month. We're having a meeting over there at their main office to go and do a presentation and talk to them. They want to hear more about the grandparents, so we are working with them.
Super. Delia, I can't thank you enough for what you're doing, not only for your own grandchildren, but for all these other grandparents who need help. You become a beacon of hope and a place, an island of assistance that people are desperately looking for all the time. So thank you for stepping up and filling that vacuum, or the other way I would say it is, thank you for heeding that call, because you got that call.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me, but I also want to thank CASA for being able to be there and be an advocate for the children and having somebody to be on their side and looking out for them too.
Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us today for Conversations with CASA. We'll see you next time.